Ready when you are.
Okay. I call this 9 January 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. And Commissioner Charbonneau, could you lead us in the pledge, please?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Clerk, could you please take the roll call?
Roll call for tonight's meeting. Ullman.
Here.
Charbonneau.
Here.
Bearhay is excused. Hornseth.
Present.
And Chair Sullivan.
Here.
Okay, you have a quorum.
Okay, and I'd like to know who is on the phone, please?
This is Iris, darling.
Okay. Hi, Iris. Anybody else? I understand there's three.
Christine Casagrande.
Hi, Christine. And one last. Nope, I guess not. Only two. All right, thank you very much. Okay, what we'll do is move on to citizens' comments. We have the comments for anybody that they're able to speak for on any item except those items that are scheduled for public hearing. And if anybody is signed in, they will be allowed to have 3 minutes per speaker, and we'll have a total of 36 minutes. Is there anybody signed in?
We do not have anybody signed.
Okay.
No one is signed in?
Nobody
Okay.
is signed in.
Okay, is there anybody else who would like to speak in the audience? Nope, okay, hopefully this will go fast. Okay, then I'll move on to the next item is the approval of the agenda and consent agenda. And I will need a motion and a second for this.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Are there any changes by anybody? No? Okay, Mr. Clerk, can we have a roll call for the agenda, please?
Voting on the approval of tonight's agenda and consent agenda, Charbonneau,
Yes.
Ullman,
Yes.
Hornseth,
Yes.
and Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
Okay, your agenda and consent agenda have been approved, and on the consent agenda was the November 7th, 2023 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'll move on to special orders, presentations, and reports. And we don't have any presentations or special orders, but we do have reports from administration. Courtney, could you give us a report, please?
Yes, so I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday season and glad to have everyone back, glad to be back myself. And we, as you see, we've hired a planning assistant. This is Clara Brown, so she'll be with us. And we've also, the city's hired a new community development director. His name is Danny Munich. He should be starting the beginning of February sometime, so we'll be seeing him shortly. And we're just plugging along with community development tasks, approving business licenses and building permits. Nothing too out of the ordinary as of right now. So.
Okay, thank you. Any commissioners have any questions for Courtney at this point? Well, congratulations on your new addition.
Thank you.
As well? Okay. All right, I'll move on to number 7 says consent agenda, but Chris has already mentioned it's the meeting on November 7th, so we're good to go on that. And so I'll move into public hearings. And public hearing comments are limited on 5 minutes per person. And after all speakers have spoken, a person may speak for a second time for up to 1 minute. And we have 5 items scheduled for public hearing tonight, which is a lot. So the first public hearing item is resolution, the first one of the year, 2024-001. And Mr. Clerk, would you read the title into the record, please?
Certainly. Resolution 2024-001 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, recommending City Council approval of the land use amendment to rezone Fort Raymond Subdivision, replat number 7, lot 10A-1, located at 905 SeaLion Avenue from an institutional zoning district to an auto commercial zoning district.
Okay, I will need a motion and a second to move this along.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-001.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. All right, administration, have any comments?
Yeah, so I'll direct you to the zoning map on page 17, so you can look at that while I give you the description of this application. The owner of the lot that is highlighted in blue or surrounded by blue is Seward City Tours, and they recently purchased this property, as you are aware, being approved by City Council on September 11th. They are requesting it to be rezoned from institutional to auto commercial due to the intent that they plan to use the property for. So they purchased this property for their business, and they intend to build a maintenance shop to support their business and then a bunkhouse. A bunkhouse is allowed with CUP and institutional zoning district, but maintenance shop or auto repair shop is not allowed in the institutional zoning district, which is why they're requesting this rezone. Since having an auto maintenance shop is an important aspect of their business to upkeep the buses for the Seward City Tours. Now, not mentioned in the agenda statement, which I want to state for public record, if you notice to the south of the lot that is being rezoned, there is that remainder parcel that was left after the replat that is still institutional. This property still belongs to the city, and the city intends to rezone it in the future to auto commercial so that it fits the rest of the lots around it, which are also auto commercial. And that action should be hopefully done sometime this summer. It'll come before you in the same meeting when we address the replat for the Public Works property. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. And I think that's everything.
Okay. Well, I will open it to public hearing, but I don't know if there's anybody here for public hearing for that at all? No? Okay. And is the applicant online? I understand the applicant was supposed to be online. So Mr. Swiderski, are you online? May have lost him. Okay. Alrighty, so with that, if there's no public hearing and the applicant is not there, do we have any comments at all from the commission at this point?
No, I think it's,
Oh, hello? Must be a very bad connection.
okay. I think it's pretty straightforward. The issue that I heard and was looking at myself, Courtney addressed that lot to the south we're going to take care of later, because we obviously don't want to leave something, a spot zone in there. So, that's taken care of. Down south, 2 lots down, and then further along the highway corridors out of commercial, it seems to fit in with the area. It seems like a natural fit for it.
It'll match everything up from what I can see. Sean, Brennan, any thoughts?
It looked pretty straightforward to me.
No? Okay. Just one last try here. Mr. Swiderski, are you there?
I am, thank you.
Okay, I thought I heard somebody every once in a while trying. So I'm a little bit out of sequence here, but would you like to say anything?
Coming in late here, I would just trust the conversation that's happened. I mean, it's pretty straightforward from our perspective, which is changing this to auto commercial just extends existing auto commercial zoning in that area and kind of blends along with what's both further to the north and south. The primary reason for us to pursue the auto commercial is to just better fit the maintenance side of things that we're going to be hoping to do with this property, along with the bunkhouse use and whatnot. And will, as I understand it, won't require any need for a variance for land use. So it really, the argument for us, it fits our intentions while also, I think, kind of fitting with the flow of the zoning in that area. And so it will just be I think, an overall improvement to what we're trying to do with the property, I guess. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioners, anybody have anything at this point? No? Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Okay. Voting on the approval of Resolution 2024-001. Hornseth,
Yes.
Allman,
Yes.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
and Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
Okay, that resolution has been approved.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, I'll move on to the next public hearing item is Resolution 2024-002. Mr. Clerk, would you please read that title into the record? And that's also found on page 20 of your packet.
I'll just say these planning and zoning resolution titles are by far the most challenging to read.
Yeah, they are.
I'll give this one a go. Resolution 2024-002 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, recommending the Kenai Peninsula Borough approval of the preliminary plat of T1SR1W Section 1 Seward Meridian Southwest East 1/2 Northeast 1/4 and Government Lots 4 and 5, excluding Nash Road right-of-way located at 1303 Nash Road, creating Mount Alice Estates Planned Unit Development Phase 1, Lots 1 through 11, and Tracks A through D.
Very good. I will now need a motion and a second, please, to get this going.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-002.
I'll second that.
Great. Okay, well, administration, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so if you'll turn to page 28 and 29 in the packet, you'll be able to see the property map of the current parcel that is being platted, and then the actual preliminary plat map. So if you compare the two, there you'll notice there is a northern portion of the current parcel that is not addressed in the preliminary plat, and this is due to the fact that the original BLM plat for this area does take into account a 40-acre square portion of property north of Tract A. So that parcel or that section of land is already platted and doesn't need to be addressed in this plat. However, everything from Tract A down, that 40-acre square BLM plat that encompassed Tract A and then a portion of land south of Nash Road needs to be addressed in this plat, which is why Tract A is part of this plat. So Tract A will be left, this large parcel of land, and then everything south of Nash Road is going to be divided up into smaller parcels in comparative to Tract A. But there'll be 11 lots, approximately 40,000 square feet, and then there'll be 3 tracks. Track B, Track C, and Track D, and then there will be a Track E, which will be the road. You'll see right after the name Eagle Run Circle, it shows that it's also designated as Track D, and it's designated as a track because it will be a private road, so it is not a public road, it will be private. For this property, the location does make it unreasonable to require that the developer connects to city water and city sewer due to the distance. So stipulations in code do require that a CUP or a conditional use permit would be acquired to allow for a planned unit development, which we'll see later in this meeting, which would allow then utilities, private utilities to be installed, which would be the wells and septics. And the stipulations and the requirements for the development of those utilities will be outlined in the subdivision agreement. So a subdivision agreement will still be required for the development of this property and for this subdivision, but the subdivision agreement will just be for all the parcels south of Nash Road. So Tract A will not be included in that subdivision agreement, as it is going to be further developed in the future and is not part of any extensive development right now.
Does that include Track B as well as the 11?
Right, so Track B the 11 lots, Tract C and Tract D would be in the subdivision agreement
Okay.
for this preliminary plat.
Okay. Alrighty, so I will open this now. First off, you finished, Courtney?
Yep.
Okay. So I'll open to public hearing. Has anybody signed in for this?
Nobody has signed in.
Okay. All right, anybody want to speak to this at all? Oh. Ms. Griswold? Yeah. Perfect timing.
Carol Griswold, inside city limits. I have many concerns about this proposed planned unit development, the first in Seward. This is a very important and complex project which requests approval of a preliminary plat, a rezone, and a CUP. I urge the Commission to postpone these resolutions and schedule another public work session to discuss the many issues. The proposed preliminary plat creates 11 lots and 3 tracts on the south side of Nash Road and Tract A on the north side. Tract A is included in the preliminary plat but is not included in the subdivision agreement, as the intent is to further subdivide it at a future date. Due to steep slopes, a charted anadromous stream, and flood zone issues, Tract A is best suited to the existing resource management zone. As Seward Code does not allow split zoning, Tract A should be platted as a separate parcel and the south parcel tracts relabeled A, B, C, and D. This could also be a required plat note. The Commission should require that the plat include the omitted flood zone boundaries and the anadromous stream on Tract A, the ordinary high water line along the beach, and all the steep slopes over 20% on Tract C and D. The plat, if Tract A is included, should include a legal access through Tract A with a minimum width of 60 feet, not including the section line easement, to be dedicated with the subdivision. The locked gate will cause issues affecting public safety. During the summer fishing season, vehicles are parked on both sides of Nash Road by the beach access nearby. Prison and shipyard workers add traffic year-round, especially during shift changes. Traffic waiting for the gate to open may cause vehicles to back up on both lanes of a busy and narrow Nash Road. Emergency response will be delayed, waiting for the gate to be opened. The plat should include a public turnaround outside the gate to get vehicles off the road and the ability to turn around for those denied entry. Consider requiring the gate to be installed 100 feet back from the right-of-way to accommodate larger vehicles like fire trucks, vehicles with boat trailers, and additional vehicles, or deny the gate. In the interest of public safety, the Commission could recommend a traffic study, as there is no data on the number of vehicles projected to access this development and the future development of Tract A. The project estimate is 200 trips per day to Nash Road, with left turns onto Nash Road noted as the biggest impact. Traffic turning left into the development and backed up traffic will also have a big impact on a busy road, on a downhill, on a curve. Is the location of the private road at the base of a steep hill on a curve the best option for public health, safety, and welfare? Is there a safer alternative? How will Tract A development and access affect this busy corridor? An unspecified number of private docks along the more than 2,900-foot beach is a big concern. Locals and visitors enjoy walking along this beach below the ordinary high tide line. The public has the right to use private uplands as minimally necessary to portage around obstacles or obstructions like private docks. A minimum 10-foot pedestrian easement above the beach should be shown on the plat, where the public will need to portage around the boat ramp, private docks, and any other obstacles or obstructions. The 30-foot private access easement connecting the private road to the beach is located right under or adjacent to the decades-old bald eagle nesting site located on Lot 11 and/or Tract B. The easement is wide enough to serve as vehicular access to a boat launch or pedestrian access to the beach. The disturbance by vehicles, people, and dogs using the access will likely negatively impact the bald eagle's quality of life and consequently that of all the people who enjoy watching bald eagles in the area. Please consider moving the private easement much farther east, away from the nest. A planned unit development can include open space. Could the plat be required to include a green space of at least 600-foot diameter around the bald eagle nesting site? The exact location is very important to this plat. Consider requiring a plat note. I urge the Commission to postpone this resolution and schedule another public work session to discuss these many issues. Thank you.
Is there anybody else to have any comments? What I'd like to do is comments from the applicant, please.
Pardon me, he was talking to me when you said that. Could you repeat yourself?
Oh, I was looking for more public comments.
Oh, okay.
And I'm looking for the applicant, if the applicant has any. Is Iris on? I believe Iris is the applicant. Iris, do you have anything?
I was trying to follow all that, and it was very difficult on phone. We have had this property since forever, and we have really explored the Eagle, we've explored everything, and we have utmost concern for the property. It has belonged in my family for about 100 years, and I do not want to destroy it or do anything that's going to deter from the beauty of Seward. And we met with engineers and surveyors, and we're taking into account everything that is involved with this property, as the hills, the roadways, and the Nash Road, and all of it, because we've been a very much part of Seward forever. So I am urging the council not to delay this. Because of some changes in our family, we need to get on with our life at hand. And we feel that the way we're going with this, we will take everything into concern and listen to it. And we certainly will abide by all the rules and regulations of the city and all the government regulations that they have on the property. So I appreciate Carol's comments. She always is very good at commenting. And I appreciate everybody's comments, but it is a beautiful piece of property. We need housing. We're trying to open up housing to places where we can build some housing because of the lay of the land. This is absolutely the best way to go, and wasn't my first way to go with it, but the people who really know development, and Ken Lang, I have utmost respect for him and his opinion. He and Jonathan, so I'm following lead on a lot of people. So thank you all for hearing this and looking at this proposal that we have on the table.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else have anything to offer? No? Okay, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. Okay, comments from the body. Anybody have?
Yeah. First off, I think that Courtney explained pretty well what's going on here while we're dealing with tract A. It's not going to be split zone if we're cutting a piece off of it to create a new tract. And Carol's comments, I think we will end up addressing most of those comments in the resolution to come a little further down, so I'll hold most of my comments for those. But I think this is a pretty simple dividing up and then dealing with that later in the resolutions coming up.
Okay. Brendan, Sean? This time? No? I know there's going to be a lot of other federal regulations, state regulations, an entire amount of things that this is just sort of the baseline of what we're going from. And I think the feds, the state, a variety of agencies are going to have to come into play with this as well. So it's a very complex process for sure. There's an awful lot of folks that, I'm sorry?
If I may, I may be out of order, but I would like to interject one thing. My husband and I, for years, worked with this property. We've worked with all the agencies. we're aware of all the agencies that do come and comply with it. We've been in touch with them. We know that this is just the starting point. But we have some good lead on what we will need and how to go about it, so.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, thank you, Iris, I appreciate that you've thought this through a little further on that. Obviously, it's a complicated effort that you have.
It is. We've been working on it for many, many years to try and do what's right for Seward and for us, and for the town.
Yep, understand, thank you.
Madam Chair, I don't know if this is allowed either, but I was curious if I could ask the surveyor a question.
I'll relax the rules for that.
Okay. Jonathan, do you mind coming in? I'm just curious on some of the comments that Carol's made.
But before you continue, may I have your name and?
Yes,
Please.
for the record, I'm Jonathan Lang, professional land surveyor from Land Associates in Anchorage.
Okay, thank you.
And we're the project surveyors.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So she had mentioned at that entrance that some kind of public turnaround would be beneficial. Say if someone approached the gate and then either didn't have the access key or whatever situation.
I think I can speak to that. Yeah, I don't see why we would have any opposition to setting back the gate so that there was a staging area in front of it for either EMS or for, as the lady pointed out, larger vehicles, boat trailers. That's absolutely reasonable. As far as dedicating an additional turnaround area, I don't think that would be necessary because the only people that should be pulling in there would be the people that are accessing the subdivision.
So as far as like showing that on the plat, I'm just curious, like.
I would recommend that be added to the subdivision agreement,
Okay.
that be sorted out with Public Works rather than something that's mandated at the board level, if that makes sense.
So it doesn't need to necessarily be seen in the plat to then be required in the subdivision agreement as far as like an adequate space for a vehicle to
Yeah, I think
turn
that
around or.
I think that we would be comfortable if that was part of the subdivision agreement. That could be negotiated with the city. It might need to be 100 feet. It might not need to be that big. Generally, I believe the right-of-way in front of this on Nash Road is 100 feet wide, and the road is only 24 feet wide in that 100-foot right-of-way. So there will be room in the right-of-way to stage vehicles. So the exact location of that, how big of an apron for staging that the city wants, we can sort that out, I think, at another time.
Okay.
But
And
it's
then,
absolutely reasonable to ask for that, and thank you for bringing that up.
and then my only other question was the comment about the private access to the beach being close to the Eagle's Nest. I'm just curious, is there another appropriate location that private access could be?
If you look at the plat, because it has the topography on there,
Yeah.
and I believe you said that's on page 28, it could be slid over to the other side of lot 11 or to the other side of lot 10. So there is wiggle room there, and yes, we could move that. Those are flatter areas with better beach access. So yes, we absolutely could move that if the Eagle's Nest is an issue.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Courtney?
No.
Now that we've had that, board, do you have any other questions or concerns at this point?
No.
Okay, with that, then I will go ahead and call for the vote.
Voting on the, voting on the approval of Resolution 2024-002. Allman,
Yes.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
Hornseth,
Yes.
and Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
Okay, that resolution has been approved.
Okay, the next public hearing item is Resolution 2024-003. Mr. Clerk, will you read this title into the record? And this is also on page 37 of your packet.
Resolution 2024-003 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, recommending City Council approval of the land use amendment to rezone Mount Alice Estates Planned Unit Development Phase 1, lots 1 through 11 and tracts B through D, located at 1303 Nash Road, from a resource management, zoning district to a multifamily residential zoning district.
Okay, thank you. I'll need a motion and a second, please.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-003.
I'll second that.
Okay, all righty. And administration, your comments, please.
Yes. So on page 44, you'll see a zoning map provided in the narrative by the applicant. The portion highlighted in blue is the area that is to be rezoned from resource management to R3. And I understand this graphic is taking the current zoning map, so it doesn't display what the parcels would look like with the replat that was just approved. So if you have to compare with the replat image on 28 to this, to see that tract A would be left resource management just north of Nash Road, and then those 3 tracts, tract B, tract C, tract D, and then lots 1 through 11 would be rezoned to R3. The intent of the rezone to R3 is that the owner, Iris Darling, wants to develop this property for dwellings, residential use, but wants to, get the most out of this property, and does have the desire to build a condominium, at least in tract B, and then create stipulations in the covenants and restrictions of the private development to restrict development to single-family homes on other lots. I'm sure she can speak to maybe more of those exact restrictions or desires if you have any questions, but it would be, so the R3 multifamily, allowing the outright use of single-family homes, but then of course all other development, multifamily dwellings would still require that additional CUP. And I think that's
Okay.
pretty much it for the rezone,
A summary, okay. Well, I'll open it to public hearing. Is anybody signed in for that or would like to speak to it?
Nobody is signed in.
Okay, thank you. Carol? Thanks.
Carol Griswold, Inside City Limits. First of all, I'd like to say hi to Iris. It's nice to hear your voice. And I'd like to mention to
Hi, Carol.
Hi. I'd like to mention to the commission, if you don't make amendments, no changes will be made. This rezone application is only for the property south of Nash Road, but the proposed plat and parcel includes tract A north of Nash Road. Seward Code does not allow split zoning. Due to steep slopes, a charted anadromous stream, and flood zone issues, tract A is best suited to the existing resource management zone. As noted in the preliminary plat comments, tract A should be platted as a separate parcel, and the south parcel tracts relabeled A, B, C, and D. A rezone is more than just checking off that the property is at least 1 acre. Findings should determine what is the public need for this rezone, how does it benefit the property owner, what are the benefits and detriments to the general public, how does it conform to the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan, what is the relative size of the rezoned area to the surrounding zones. Comp plan notes. The comprehensive plan future land use plan map does not support this rezone. The private docks and boat launch are not feasible and will not support 3.5 Port and Harbor development or 3.112 economic development update and expand infrastructure. A community resident charter boat captain will only be able to store their boat at home if it is trailered in. The high-density development will negatively impact 3.9 quality of life and 3.922 preserve and protect the scenic views of the mountains and Resurrection Bay. The reason given for R3 rezone is to allow an unspecified number of multifamily units, including condominiums. Once rezoned to R3, there's no guarantee of the desire that most of the residences will be single-family homes. Efficiency apartments, detached single-family dwellings, and duplexes are allowed outright. Townhouses, condos, and multiplexes are allowed by CUP. Consider the impacts of allowing a high-density development here, where previously only one low-impact single-family residence has existed on this shore in this viewshed for decades. R1, single-family, low-density residential would be a more compatible choice. I urge the Commission to postpone this resolution and schedule another public work session to discuss these many issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Now it's for comments from the applicant. Iris? Yeah.
I have basically no comments. As I said, we've explored the usage of this, and I think we're going to listen to all the comments, so we want to do the very best we can for Seward, and I think that we're headed in that direction. And as far as getting excessive houses on that is not going to be a possibility because the covenants and the restrictions of what we're going to put in will cover that.
Okay, well, thank you. Anything? No? Okay. Then I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and I'd like to have comments from the body at this point.
I have a couple of comments.
Okay.
First off, I guess I just want to start out in that right now we're just looking at this lower section and just rezoning it, potentially rezoning it. I think there's more discussion when we come to the next resolution on the planned unit development, but for this purpose, this rezoning, the lots are good size. R3 seems to work there. I've said this before many times, but I would like to see everything R1. But I do realize that a town cannot consist of only single-family homes because people starting out can't afford a single-family home in their first home. So while I do like to see all single-family homes, I realize that there are important places for different styles of homes. And I think that this area would suit a variety of single-family and potentially non-single-family homes.
Brennan, Sean?
Well, I guess I could bring up now the point about a traffic study, which I think is a good point with just, the nature of Nash Road. And, when a traffic study were done, I just wonder if that would, provide evidence that might recommend or even require, not R3, because R3, depending on the covenants and restrictions, which I am interested in hearing more about that whenever is appropriate. If that traffic study might determine that, hey, R3 isn't appropriate because it's way more people than R1, for example.
Well, I think I agree that needs to be talked about, but I think that it fits more when it comes to the planned unit development area. Because it's zoned R3, it doesn't necessarily mean it's all going to be one particular way. There are some decently sized lots in here that would make a wonderful single-family home, and I'm sure some of them will be that. There are larger tracts that will be larger housing units. And I would like to talk about traffic too, but I think I'm going to save that for the next resolution.
Yeah, they're fine toward the end. I think some of those. Brennan?
I want to see more places for people to live. The zoning is an interesting one over there. The neighboring is industrial. It's kind of interesting to jump to R3, but I think that's what Seward needs in that way. I think it's a plan to get the best use of the land.
Okay.
Yeah, we have these large tracts of land over there that nobody's really done anything with for quite some time. And they were initially just zoned and put there, and now we're slowly starting to work our way over, and I'm hoping start moving some of these into different zonings and more beneficial for the town as a whole.
We're hoping that this can be a real positive move for Seward with both multi and single family housing to the best advantage. And we have studied the traffic. We've been in contact with a lot of efforts, and as far as back as 1980, that property's been studied by everybody, so it's had a lot of studies on it.
Iris, we're at the board discussion right now. I'm going to continue on with our stuff, and then we'll touch base with you as we progress here a little bit.
Okay,
No worries. It's tough on the phone. I totally get that. I am also a little concerned about the R3, because I know we talk about R3 is, it's great because you can provide more homes or more housing and things like this, but in the discussions, it's always like, we'll zone it R3, yet we're already going to put R1 here or the rest. But what happens if all becomes if it potentially, whoever buys these different plots of land, they all decide to become R3? How many people will be there on Nash Road? And again, my big concern is the traffic on Nash Road is, having spent a lot of time on Nash Road, the traffic that's there, it's a 2-lane highway. I think the traffic study would be very important to see what impact on the road, because that might necessitate the borough or the state, or whoever has those areas there, to make the appropriate improvements. That area I think is on a blind curve, and it's near some culverts that historically in the last 20 years that I know of, that they've collapsed and they've had to fix them. And the added traffic with, and it's a larger picture with with the road itself, because you have the Coast Guard going in, you have a lot more businesses going in, then you have this on top of it. I don't know, what is the reasoning for R3 totally? And maybe that's not for you, Iris. I was just going to say, Courtney, is there a thing that you understand that it's more beneficial for the R3 versus, say, dictate that they can only have, single family duplexes?
Right, I mean, the intent then that Iris has expressed is to have a condominium, which is only allowed in R3, and not allowed in R2 or R1. If you're, looking at possibly, say, only zoning of certain parcels within this southern portion to R3, and then rezone the rest to R1, you would have to make sure that you're rezoning at enough acreage so that you're not spot zoning. So there would have to be enough lots that are rezoned R3 contiguously, and then R1 contiguously, which is something that can be reviewed.
That was the point, thinking of that as well, because if the Hilltop subdivision, you have this gradual thing from multifamily to duplex to single. At least it's the density is a little less. I mean, I am a little concerned about it being all of a sudden it's all R3, and you have a lot of people there. That could be tough. But that's just my thoughts. Because I know if things aren't written down, they a lot of times don't happen. That's why I just wanted to be sure. Sir, you said that you would like to offer some more?
Yes, I'm Ken Lang and Associates. I met with Iris initially on this project, and she explained to me that they had previously come, I believe, to this board and gotten a conditional use to do a camper park on the property. They purchased a 3,000-gallon septic tank and had the engineering done. The tank is still on site, and so my suggestion to her was the DEC requirement for a septic tank is 150 gallons per day per bedroom. So based on that, if she was to develop condos or townhouses, she could go up to 20 bedrooms or 10 two-bedroom units, and we decided that would be best located on the track B here. As far as the rest of the property is concerned, even if it's R3, there are limitations based on the slopes, the septic requirements, and the separation with wells.
So what you're saying, the land
I
is-
doubt very much that other than Track B, any of the rest of these would be developed as multifamily.
Okay, thank you. That helps a lot. Sir?
If we're jumping in here, I would also like to speak to what you raised about density. You drive down the street here in downtown Seward, you've got a dozen lots on each side of the street in a 600-foot span. We're looking at least 100 feet of frontage on each one of these lots. And we're only talking about 11 lots, plus the 4 tracts that are germane to the replat. So when you're talking about density and relative density, you're not replicating downtown Seward. They're much larger lots. And I realize that it's outside of the city limits, but you're looking at something more like Camelot, something that's much larger lots. Just as a matter of perspective, I wanted to throw that in there.
That's great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. That helps. Okay, anybody else have anything to offer?
I think we're good.
Good, alrighty. Okay, well then I will close the public hearing completely and I'll call for the vote.
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2024-003, Hornseth,
Yes.
Allman,
Yes.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
and Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
Okay, that resolution has been approved.
Okay, I'll move on to the next one. The next public hearing is Resolution 2024-004. Mr. Clerk, would you please read those into the record?
Resolution 2024-004 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, granting a conditional use permit to Resurrection Bay Investments, LLC, to implement a planned unit development, including the development of streets, utilities, dwellings, and residential docks on lots 1 through 11 and tracts B through D, Mount Alice Estates Planned Unit Development Phase 1 within a multifamily residential R3 zoning district.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. That is also on page 51 of your packet, and I will need a motion and a second to get it to the floor.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-004.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right. Courtney?
So a planned unit development is defined in city code as a land development under unified control that is planned and constructed in its entirety as a single development operation or in a series of program stages. And the development may include streets, circulation ways, utilities, residences, commercial buildings, open spaces, and other site features and improvements, some of which may not otherwise be individually permitted. Typically, so as you gather from this description, the planned unit development has a lot of different uses included. The intent, or what spurred this CUP was actually, as I mentioned in the replat or the preliminary plat, was the development of utilities. There's not an allowance in our city code that allows a developer to construct a well on their property. They have to connect to city water. However, it's not feasible in this location to connect to city water. So a planned unit development does allow for the private development, streets, circulation ways, utilities, and utilities being the one that we're focusing on, that would provide the way for this developer to develop those wells and septic on their property. However, in our discussions with the property owner and developers, they had other interests as well that they wanted to include in their planned unit development, such as the private residential docks, which in our code, in land uses allowed, we only have allowances for commercial type of docks. And so when something isn't stipulated in code, a use isn't stipulated in code, then it requires a CUP anyway. So if we didn't include in the planned unit development, that the property owners would then be required to get a CUP to construct a residential dock on their property. It seems appropriate to include in this plan unit development, since a plan unit development does include many of these features, other site features, and improvements, some of which are not otherwise individually permitted. So we're kind of addressing those docks at this time. But yeah, the primary things that this CUP will address are the utilities, then the roads, and then those residential docks. The exact conditions for the CUP are on page 50. Well, 53 is one location that's in the agenda statement, but it's also in the resolution. So just to briefly run down, the applicant will need to work with the building official, and civil engineering will be required for the sites, and then all buildings will be required to install a fire suppression system adequate for the use of the building. So there are, residential fire suppression systems that are different than the commercial suppression systems, but this will be required due to the conversations we had with our fire chief, since the location of this development is quite some distance from the city. It would take too long for a fire truck to get to a house that was burning, and so these fire suppression systems are designed to provide adequate time for any individuals in the home to get out safely. The hope and intent is that it would also put out the fire, but there's no guarantee with that. But it would provide some level of additional safety, since the distance for a fire truck to get there is substantial. And then the third, the surveyor will submit the results of the groundwater testing to the city prior to the approval of the subdivision agreement. This is also a requirement that the borough has for the final plat. We're just stipulating it in here just to make sure that we also get those results before the approval of the subdivision agreement, since the subdivision agreement will have to contain the requirements for the construction of the wells, and we'll need to know those details. And then the individual property owners, sorry, jump down to number 5, within the plan unit development will be responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of the private road. The Public Works Director wanted to make sure that this was in there, so that the understanding in years to come would be that the city is not responsible for the upkeep of the private road. And then the fire chief and police chief did mention that they would need to be given access to the gate at the private road to be able to get in case of an emergency situation. And of course, all roads will meet the standards for width, turnarounds, and access for emergency vehicles. And then number 8 contains all of the requirements for residential docks, which the CUP isn't necessarily creating these requirements. It's just displaying what requirements are already in place, basically. Because anyone who would be wanting to build a residential dock or a dock, even if they had commercial land, would have to go through these steps. So these steps aren't anything different than what anybody else would have to do. But the property owners would have to plat a portion of the tide lands that they're planning to use for the residential docks, and then a lease agreement between the city and the property owners would need to be approved by the harbor master and city council. And then for the docks themselves, a building permit must be obtained, as well as the floodplain permit, which would have the applicant or the property owners would also then need to go to the river center and apply for that universal permit that kind of reviews all development in a flood zone.
I just one quick question to interject in there. It sounds to me, based on this and what I've been reading, is that there are so many other requirements. I mean, we may be, if we look at it and prove a dock, that kind of thing, they have to prove to us, the homeowners or the rest have to prove to us they've gone through all the hoops to get all the permissions and the permits from all these other agencies first.
Right, and yeah, they would have all these other requirements that they would need to go through. in addition, I mean, this CUP within grant that they have the option to build the residential docks, but there's also these other requirements that need to be done, as I said, that aren't necessarily being created by the Planning and Zoning Commission. They've already been in place. The harbor master is the one that kind of walked me through these steps that would need to be taken to develop those docks, yeah. And that's all I have.
Okay. There's a lot for that, for sure. Well, what I'll do is go ahead and open it for a public hearing at this point. Anybody have anything to offer? Carol, please.
Carol Griswold, Inside City Limits. There is a lot of repetition among these three, but I did try to divide my comments up to reflect each requirement. So this is the CUP. The conditional use permit for a planned unit development will allow a gated private road, a private boat launch, and a private dock along the more than 2,900 feet of tideland frontage along the undeveloped eastern shore of Resurrection Bay. This appealing proposal of a private gated community with private residential docks is not based in reality and is missing several key facts. The tidelands are owned by the city, i.e. the public. A lease in the public's interest will be required to build docks and a boat launch on this public land. The tidelands are very shallow here. Even kayaks will go dry at low tide. Expensive and extensive dredging will be required to create and maintain a long channel with a reasonable depth for larger vessels. The Army Corps of Engineers will require permits. An anadromous intertidal stream runs along the shoreline. Fish and Game will need to be involved in required permitting if this is approved. To help reduce the impacts and ensure that the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding, please amend the CUP to deny the private residential docks. As noted previously, the public has a right to access the beach below the ordinary high tide line. A pedestrian easement above the beach around any obstacles and obstructions should be required. Amend the CUP to require pedestrian access above the beach. Quality of life. Preserve and protect the scenic views of the mountains and Resurrection Bay. The proposed development should be required to provide shields on streetlights, leave a vegetative screening buffer between the development and the shore and adjacent properties, and locate the dwellings and structures to be as far from the beach as possible to minimize the visual impacts to the watershed and to the viewshed and neighbors. Amend the CUP to add these requirements. As noted in the plat comments, the 30-foot private access easement from the private road to the beach runs right under or adjacent to the decades-old bald eagle nesting site. Amend the CUP to require that the private easement be moved much farther east away from the nest. A planned unit development can include open space. Amend the CUP to require an undisturbed green space of at least 600 feet diameter around the bald eagle nesting site located on Lot 11 and/or Tract B as a CUP condition. The exact location is very important to this CUP. As previously noted, a lock gate will cause issues affecting public safety. Amend the CUP to include a public turnaround outside the gate to get vehicles off the road and the ability to turn around for those denied entry. Amend the CUP to require the gate to be installed 100 feet back from the road right-of-way to accommodate larger vehicles like fire trucks, vehicles with boat trailers, and additional vehicles. Just because the existing road is 24 feet wide does not mean that in the future it could be 80 feet wide like Jefferson Street. It could be much wider, so don't depend on using public right-of-way to address traffic issues for this development. Consider requiring a separate well for use as a fire response water source. The commission should recommend a traffic study, as previously noted, and I won't go through all that again. If the commission does not make amendments, no changes will be made. Thank you.
So, thank you, Carol. I'll take any comments from the applicant.
I basically have no comment.
Okay. Thanks, Iris.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes.
actually, I'll just hold my comment for later. I'd like to see where the discussion goes and go from there, sorry. Will there be another opportunity for us to comment, or is this it?
Well, after this one, we go into our next comment. Our next session will be on mobile vendors. I think this is the last one for this, so we'll be discussing a little bit later. I can relax the rules at a certain point, but I want to be sure that we move forward with what we need to do and we don't get bogged down. So when you get an opportunity, Rissy, if you just give me a heads up, and if you've got your stuff sort of, specific, and then we can discuss that there. So let me go ahead and get to the rest of the public hearing, or the closing the public hearing, and then we'll go from that. And then if the commissioners have any questions, they'll bounce it off of you, and then if not, then we'll just go ahead and you can say what your last bit of comments are. Will that work?
Yeah, I know that there's been a couple commissioners that have spoke to the zoning and said that they'll wait till this section, so I just had comments if any commissioners have comments on questions. Originally, we were hoping to rezone this to a higher usage than R3 because, I just hope that nobody forgets that this property is surrounded by industrial, which to require people to have single-family residence next to industrial is, I think, a little bit drastic. And so...
Okay, we'll talk to that in a little bit on that. I'm going to move it
okay.
on, but you'll bring that forward when we get back to it, okay?
Please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, then I will go ahead and close the public hearing, and I'll reserve the right for people to ask any questions with the folks online if we need to. Comments from the body at this point, and any amendments if necessary.
Yeah, I have some comments and amendments. I'm going to start out with amendments because there's a couple of them, and then we can get to comments after we...
Okay, I just want to make sure that we do it one at a time and that the clerk has it clear before we...
Don't you worry. Okay. Let's see, I would move to amend Resolution 2024-004. Let's see, notes here. I move to amend the required conditions in Section 1 under letter F, Resolution 2024-04, by striking everything after the word for under 1A and adding each site. So the new would read, civil engineering shall be required for each site.
And Mr. Clerk, do you want us to vote on each one of these directly or just list them out for now?
We'll vote on each one as they
Okay, good.
as
Just wanna
they
be sure
come.
that's
And
right.
could you please repeat for the clerk, what section are you striking?
Striking everything after the word for under 1A and adding each site. So the new letter A would read, civil engineering shall be required for each site.
On page 57 in the resolution.
Point of order, that's a borough requirement. We will have to provide that already for the borough plat.
Okay, bear with me here. Commissioner Charbonneau, so are we in section 1A of the resolution?
Yes.
So where it starts out, the use is consistent with the purpose of this chapter?
It's section 1 under letter F.
It's on page 57.
Then the first condition.
Yeah, section 1 under letter F.
The applicant shall work with the building official. That paragraph.
Correct.
Yeah.
Number 4. The installation of all utilities, including wells.
No, so, yeah, under 1, letter A. Yeah. You were right, the applicant shall work with the building
Oh,
official.
the
That's
applicant
one.
shall work with the building official.
But then under that A,
Oh, A, civil
A, yeah, the
engineering.
end.
Okay, found it. Thank you. Civil engineering shall be required for the sites themselves as well as the proposed structures to be built before a building permit will be issued. And just one last time, the amendment would be,
The new wording?
The new letter A, yeah.
The new lettering A would read, civil engineering shall be required for each site.
for each site. Okay. I have that down. Is there any discussion on that, or are we ready to vote?
I have one question. If it's something is already mandated by the borough, is it not so much not necessary, but is it improper to put it in there as to reinforce a borough operation, a borough requirement already?
Madam Chair, if I may interject, it's state law. If you have well and septic, the engineering needs to be done if it is less than 400,000 square feet, which is just over 9 acres.
So
that's you guys don't deal with well and septic because you have city services, but that's going to be a requirement of the borough because of state law.
And by stating it, putting it in our CUP to mandate it, it's not going to hurt
Just
anything.
redundancy.
That's fine. And I think it also provides a checklist, so I think we're okay. Okay, so on that one, I guess we'll just go ahead and keep that in. And anybody ready to, any other comments for the one? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote on that one.
Okay, voting on Amendment 1, civil engineering shall be required for each site.
Okay.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
Allman,
Yes.
Hornseth,
Yes.
and Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
Okay, that amendment has passed, and now the main motion is back on the floor as amended.
Any other amendments that we are looking at?
Yeah. I will move to amend Resolution 2024-004 by adding a required condition in Section 1 under letter F in Resolution 2024-004 by adding a new requirement to say a traffic study analyzing the impact of the proposed development to Nash Road shall be completed prior to the approval of the subdivision agreement.
Okay. Let me know, Chris, when you've got that. If you don't.
Madam Chair, may I ask staff a question?
Yes, you may.
Are there standards in the city code for traffic analysis?
there are no standards in city code for traffic analysis.
Okay. So my question to the board would be, what exactly are you asking us to do? Traffic impact analysis, we did one for a project in Eagle River and it was $10,000. So if there are specific things the board wants an analysis to do, and it's not specified in code, that seems like you're kind of writing a blank check for us that we don't know what the amount's going to be. If you have specific questions that you want answered, we can provide an analysis, but a traffic impact analysis is actually a very formal, very rigorous procedure. If I may expound upon this, what we're looking at 200 trips per day is 200 vehicles turning left and coming into Seward. They're not going further out the road. And we're also looking at 200 vehicles turning right, coming directly into the subdivision. So everybody leaving may have to wait for traffic. As far as an impact beyond that, we're not talking about heavy industry. You've already pointed out that there's industrial property next door. The road should be constructed to handle heavy industry because it goes to the port. So again, I'm without something in borough, or excuse me, city code that specifies what a traffic impact analysis would look like, that's very concerning for me.
Well, I know that, yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
I know that there's some amendments here that I would like to put in, and I think we all would because of some concerns, and some of them are also based on the speaking with the city on work sessions, that they had some concerns as well. I'm fine postponing this section and having another work session with you guys to iron out exactly which concerns we have and the city has, and how best to make them, how best to arrange them so the applicant and the developer can meet them. I don't know if right now is the time to hash these out. So if that makes more sense, I'd be happier with that than trying to go back and forth about it during this particular meeting.
You want to postpone
And
this particular?
Yeah.
Chair Sullivan, if I may, before we talk too much about this amendment, did it get a second?
No, it was not a seconded at this point. It was not. Actually, given what here, and we may have some other ones like this, I think that I'd like to make a motion to postpone this particular resolution and possibly have a work session to hash out, as we said, some of the items that may potentially be some challenging ones that have not been brought before the board before to this point.
And, Chair Sullivan, just for the record, is this amendment dying for lack of a second then?
The first one is, yes, that is
Okay.
dying. I'm making a new,
And then
sorry,
the motion on the floor is to postpone?
postpone this one,
I'll second that.
okay? Any discussion from any of the,
Yeah, I think it's important to get this moving as quickly as possible. I think this is a good idea, but we're clearly running into something here that we need to talk more about.
some significant objections and people have strong ideas about, because I have several things based on this, several amendments that I would be like to look at, and it would be nice to have a bit of a work session with the folks that are involved with it, that we can come to a reasonable, conclusion that is fitting for everybody.
I don't want to require more than necessary.
Yeah, and I think we,
Okay.
yeah, no, and we wouldn't want to necessarily.
And for the record, do we know when this work session could be held or when it would be postponed to?
I know we have to identify it.
As soon as possible.
Can we do the next work session? Can we,
Then the next work session would be January 23rd, so that's in exactly 2 weeks. That's adequate time for the individuals that need to be there to come, then I see no problem it being on the 23rd. The next one would be February, I don't have the exact date, but the third
the third
Tuesday in
but-
February.
It would be nice to just not get this knocked out and then move on, because I forget we were tentatively having scheduled on that other one for that work session. We can push it back, I suppose. Get this taken care of. Gentlemen, is that amenable to you if you plan on attending? Good.
I'd like to get it done as quickly as possible.
Okay,
And
so,
if you're really in a pinch, you could call for a special meeting as well to take action, after the work session.
oh, that's true, I could do that. I forgot all about that. Thanks. That's why you didn't learn.
Just a point to raise. Since the preliminary plat's already been approved, that is probably the biggest drag on our time, getting that approved through, because you've approved it, now it has to get approved by the borough. So with the approval of that, postponing this does not slow the project down. But I appreciate your concern, and definitely we want to jump on getting this done.
Yeah, because I think based on everybody's notes on there, I think several people have some amendments or things to discuss, and I don't know if we can adequately give it due justice in tonight. We've had a lot of
Thank you for
stuff.
that. We'd definitely like to hear those before you bring them so that we can address them
Good.
adequately.
Okay, well then I think that's probably the smarter move to go in that respect.
Thank you.
So if anybody has anything else to say, can you repeat what I had said?
So the motion on the floor is to postpone this resolution until a work session can be had on it, and it looks like January 23rd work session, we could have that as a topic.
Good, thank you. So then I will go ahead and, do we need to vote for the postponement? Sure,
Yes.
certainly.
Ready to vote?
Yep.
Hornseth,
Yes.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
Allman,
Yes.
and Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
Okay, this resolution has been postponed.
Okay. Alrighty then. So, thank you, gentlemen. I'll move on. The last public hearing item is Resolution 2024-005. And Mr. Clerk, will you read the title into the record?
Resolution 2024-005 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, recommending the City Council amend Seward City Code 15.10.226C7 requirements for mobile vendors.
Okay, and that's found on page 70 of your packet. Okay, I will need a motion and a second to get this on the floor.
We'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-005.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right, comments from admin.
Yes, so I believe the majority of you were present at the work session we had on November 21st with the city clerk, and we discussed the mobile vendor program and some of the feedback that was given from mobile vendor operators to the clerk. And one of those pieces of feedback was that a stipulation in code that required them to tear down every night was cumbersome and a burden to their business. So that portion of code is in Title 15 under land uses allowed. And let's see, if you turn to the proposed ordinance, which starts on page 74, and then the actual amendment, or the proposed amendment to that ordinance is on page 76. So currently, in Title 15, land use is allowed. Under letter C for mobile vendors, number 7 requires that mobile vendor vehicles or carts may not remain in place overnight or in city parking lots. So for 2 reasons, I guess. We're striking number 7 first so that mobile vendors can remain intact for the duration of their business operation instead of having to take down every night. And that they can also operate in city parking lots where the majority of mobile vendor locations are located. Now, this, if you look, just the number 8 below it, which will be renumbered to number 7, says that mobile vendor vehicles must be self-contained when operating. So if there is any concern about, well, okay, now the mobile vendor doesn't need to pack up every night, they're going to just spread out their operation, City Code still has the stipulation in there that will keep them contained to their one location, even if they're set up for a month or multiple months. So
Okay.
this will be the only change to code. It'll be striking number 7.
Okay, I appreciate it. Well, I don't see anybody here for any public hearing notices on this, so the city is the applicant, so we don't have to worry about that. We just heard from the city. So I'll close the public hearing, and I will see if any of the commissioners have any comments.
Yeah, I do. We had a really good work session about this. We heard from Parks and Rec, we heard from vendors through Parks and Rec. These changes seem fairly simple and have the potential to make the mobile vending areas more profitable and better and easier for the vendors, which in turn is better for us as the city and the people in Seward. And Courtney did mention that they still are restricted to an area, so by allowing them, they're not just going to sprawl out. They can't live there, and if for some reason it doesn't work, we can change it later. So I think it's a good idea.
I think so too, and I think whoever is maintaining that stuff in the Parks and Rec, well, if somebody's sprawling, they'll be telling you to tidy it up, so there'll be a policing of that to some extent. Brennan?
Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify, the locations are actually not in this document, right? They're in what the city decides, basically your own separate...
Right, so the locations that we discussed at our
A work session. They had some of those.
Right, yeah.
Those are
Yeah,
the same.
I
Those are the
just
same ones, right?
wanted to clarify that for...
Right, yeah, and the locations aren't a part of code, they're just part of the city clerk mobile vendor program. So those will be, or have been updated already
Okay,
at a different, yeah.
we're good. We have that a bit. Does that answer what you're looking at?
Yep.
Cool. Sean? No? Okay. All right, well, that's it. I'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2024-005. Charbonneau,
Yes.
Hornseth,
Yes.
Allman,
Yes.
and Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
Okay, that resolution has been approved.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'll move on to number 9, which is unfinished business, and we have none, which is nice. And then I'll move on to number 10, which is new business, and we have one resolution. It's 2024-006. Mr. Clerk, would you please read it into the record?
Resolution 2024-006 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, recommending City Council approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission priorities for January 2024 to January 2025.
Okay, and that's page 83, I believe, that I've got on here. And I'll need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-006.
I'll second that.
Okay. Administration, any comments?
Yeah, a lot of these priorities kind of are maintained the same through the years, but I just want to point out some that are specific to this year. So on page 84, last year we did have a public hearing for the 2030 Comprehensive Plan Review and Update recommendations, and we intended to have more work sessions and discussions on that. That didn't happen due to many other things that we needed to discuss and work on. But we are hoping to hold another public hearing and to do a preliminary update, so identifying the items that have been completed in the comprehensive plan so that we can then remove them from those sections where they're goals, but since they've been completed, we can take them out and just update the plan in that way. And then a goal for this year is to revise the requirements for conditional use permits in code. So we have been doing on the side, kind of off and on right now, the review of conditional use permits, which have brought up some areas that need to be addressed in code to just kind of tighten up those conditional use permits. And then this year we will be attending a joint work session with the Seward Bear Creek Flood Board, Parks and Rec, and Trout Unlimited Alaska, which Trout Unlimited Alaska is the organization that's kind of behind this NFWF Coastal Resiliency Grant that we were granted for the waterfront restoration. And that work session, I believe, is either March or April, so there aren't specific details on that right now, but those are to come. And then on page 85, just want to point out, under the first bullet point, review and make recommendations to update Title 15 as needed. We did a lot of work last year on that, which was great. And some topics that we need to finish up this year would be the sign update. We got pretty deep into that and then had to put that on a shelf. But we need to
Finish that
to
off.
wrap that up. And then I keep getting requests from multiple developers and even city administration that we need to look again at the height restrictions to at least address it, to maybe accommodate what is an appropriate height for a 3-story building, because many developers are coming to me and saying that the 34 feet doesn't even allow you to build a 3-story building and meet appropriate requirements in code for the spacing between floors and other requirements like that. So we're hoping to have a work session to just kind of look at that and have the fire chief and the building inspector there as well to kind of talk us through those aspects of building code in relation to the height restriction. Other than that, a lot of these are just the usual things that we kind of work throughout the year.
That's true, thank you. Regarding the comprehensive plan, because I've gone through that a few times, and are we allowed to just go ahead and, bring it to the work session and just say lining through things, or do we have to go, we know that this is done, and we can just, get that taken care of? Do we have to present that at a formal public hearing that these are the things that we are deleting, or can we delete the stuff and then present the new one, or how does that work? Because that's going to be long.
Right. I believe that the best format would be to have a work session, and depending on how many items that we are going to review in the comprehensive plan, I don't think it needs to necessarily be a long work session, and it could probably be joined with another topic, have multiple topics in a work session, and just kind of go through the comprehensive plan, striking which things have been accomplished, and then we would bring that forward in a public hearing. Say we're amending the 2030 comprehensive plan to show and making an update, a 2025 update to show what the current goals are in relation to what has been completed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know some of it, like the Muni Land Plan was pretty laborious.
Right.
The comprehensive plan is bigger in some respect.
Yeah, and in my conversations with administration, yeah, this year would be more of just a housekeeping, kind of striking things versus really digging into the plan and trying to update our goals and objectives for the future. That will be coming, but not for this year.
Good. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good. Okay. Thanks. Anybody else regarding our priorities on this here? Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, go ahead and bring it to a vote.
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2024-006. Hornseth,
Yes.
Allman,
Yes.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
and Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
Okay, that resolution has been approved.
All right. Well, other new business items. We have to discuss the work session topic for January 23rd. I think we figured that out now.
Yep.
We're moving on with the postponement of that resolution, which was at 005?
004.
004, okay. 20, all right. 004, okay. Anybody else have any? My gut feeling is that it would be a fairly long meeting, but we may not be, but we can have other items with it.
I mean, I think you're right, but I wouldn't be opposed to throwing something on just in case we get there so we can work through things if administration's fine with it. I mean, I don't know if that's feasible for you guys.
Yeah, is there a specific?
Whatever's next that needs to be dealt with, I suppose.
Okay.
It's up to you.
I mean, the only one that pops in my head is signs, but that seems a little too intense to join in with.
We could put signs on there, and that would, because I'm assuming most of our time will be
with the
busy
CUP.
with 04. So if we throw signs on, maybe we'll just get like a little quick refresher.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
At least have that in the wings for in case, everything comes together perfectly
Yeah.
on the CUP.
Okay.
I don't want to leave early.
All right. I will prepare
Okay.
both topics. Yep.
Brennan, Sean, anything else you want to add or thinking about?
No, I would just say thanks to everybody for being here.
That's true.
Is it time for that?
We're getting there. Not quite yet.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Oh, so.
So the January 23rd work session will be here in hopefully council chambers at 6 o'clock. If not, we'll probably wind up moving it somewhere else. And our next meeting is on February 6th. And we'll come up with whatever that winds up being our final. Maybe we might be able to run through the work session and get that done and do the CUP during that formal meeting. I don't know. Maybe we could.
Right. That one.
It would be the next meeting after the work session.
So yeah, is the desire to potentially approve that planned unit CUP, the resolution 2024?
We could.
At that
If not,
work
then
session or the next meeting?
Say again.
Would we approve it at the January 23rd meeting or the February 6th meeting? I mean, they didn't sound like they were in a
Hurry.
huge
No,
rush.
we can push it to February.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay, well, the next thing on here is citizens' comments, and everybody left, so we'll go from there. And right now, here we go, Sean, we're at it. Okay, board and administrative comments. Here we go.
Yeah, thank you all for being here. I don't know, I've said this before in a variety of ways. One, was nice to have some public here, but the more the better. Like, I think public opinion matters so much in what we do here.
Oh, yeah.
And to get a real sense of how we have all different kinds of people here in Seward, it's a great thing. So the more people and opinions and views to hear, to just even listen, helps so much. So I would just put a call out here to public to come on January 23rd at 6 o'clock and to try other ways to kind of get the word out, even if it's just word of mouth or,
Sure.
yeah, ramp up the public attendance.
That'd be nice.
But yeah, thanks everybody.
Brennan?
Yeah, it's, we took a little break there for a while, so it's nice to be back. See everybody. Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Daniel?
I'd like to thank the administration always for all your hard work, and welcome to the new faces here. I can't remember your names at the moment, but I'm sure we'll get there.
It's close to mine, it's Clara. I say Clara and Claire. Yeah.
Nathaniel.
Well, I want to thanks again, one, the commission for sure for helping out, because this is like a lot of hard stuff to digest, and you're on the spot a lot for things. You're never making everybody happy at every given time, so you're always, somebody's going to be not the most, pleased with the decision making, but I think we're taking the entire, what do we think is the best thing for the Seward community and representing as best as we can. And the dialogue that we have allows us to have dive deeper in that sort of discussion to find out what really is. And we discover what's better for the town, just by basically talking to everybody. The administration, you're like, all you guys, the clerk's office and administration are just amazing response to all of us when we come up and ask some boneheaded questions, or whatever, you give us some sort of guidance along the way. So I think that's pretty awesome. Thank you very much. So, Court, do you have anyone to say anything at all?
Yeah, just thank you to everyone, and I agree with Claire, the asking the questions is really important, and I appreciate all the questions that you have all asked during this process. I mean, a plan unit development is not something the city has ever done, so it is a big thing, and I've had to ask a lot of questions, so it's not anything to feel silly about asking a question that maybe seems like it's straightforward to someone else, but I'm sure there are a lot of people in the public, if they're not watching now, if development does occur over there, that they will be interested and will want to know that the questions have been asked and that we've done our due diligence. So I think that is important. And yeah, just looking forward to a new year and a full team.
Yeah, you've been running pretty solo.
Yeah. And then to Sean, your comment about just getting the word out there, I just wanted to make the comment that I have been starting to post the packet on the city's webpage under the tab Government, and then Planning and Zoning Commission, and then Planning and Zoning Commission meetings. So the current meeting packet is always there, and I can certainly do more to the website to maybe increase public awareness of the meetings going out. I know since the newspaper's no longer a thing, the city's kind of trying to come up with other ways to notify the public, and I'll let you know as I find out more information about that. I don't know if we do have a city newsletter that is going out currently, or if that's still in the works.
It's still in the works.
Okay.
But we're gonna have a new subscriber list coming up where people can click and choose on their subscriptions that they want from a variety of city departments or the council boards and commissions and other general news items. So kind of a more modern type of a mailing list than just sending it out to email subscribers.
Right.
And similar to what Courtney was just saying, we're trying to utilize our website more, especially with the Seward Journal going away, and trying to put more stuff on the website and make it more of a hub for information.
Well, I think that helps quite a bit for your requirement, because you have mandatory public announcements that you have to send out. You used to be supposed to put them in the newspaper all the time, or different things. By code, you're supposed to do that. And so if you don't have a newspaper, it makes it a little hard, so you have to find, different ways to be able to figure it out. And I think online and as well, whether it's email or even on the website, I think that might suffice for the same criteria, you know.
Right.
Oh, good. Okay, well, that's great. Well, thanks, everybody. I'll adjourn the meeting at 8:35.